Hello, Labbers, and welcome to Virtual Preschool Project. For returners, this might be a little bit different than what you're used to, and for new Labbers, we are so excited that you're here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can follow along the slides with me, but I also will be posting these slides separately on the Canvas so you can access them separately from this video. So to start off, let me figure this out. We're going to talk about the structure of the Child 3 Lab itself. So a lot of people believe that Preschool Project is kind of its own entity, but in reality, it falls under this huge umbrella of the Child 3 Lab, which you guys will notice in the Canvas this fall. So when you go into the Canvas, you'll start off by seeing, I believe it's called like Lab Essentials or Lab Introduction, something like that. And you'll need to click through all of those tabs to get started. I've linked that under the Preschool Project module so you guys can access it easily. But you'll notice that there are lots of other elements to this lab than just Preschool Project. So in the Child 3 Lab, you're going to be seeing caregiver workshops, English productivity testing and FOMO, transcription and coding, and preschool testing, all of which are separate from Preschool Project itself, but all fall under the Child 3 Lab. Child 3 Lab stands for Child Language Development Disorders and Disparities Lab. That's where like the 3 comes from because it's the 3 Ds. So if you guys have any questions about that or want to get involved in different parts of the lab, feel free to reach out to either myself or Savannah, who is our lab queen. So now that you know kind of where Preschool Project falls within the Child 3 Lab, let's talk about what to expect for Preschool Project itself this fall. So the weekly time commitment. Typically, when we're in person at Rosa Parks, for returners, you guys will know this. For new members, you might not. You would go from about 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock on 1 day a week, maybe 2 if you have time in your schedule for that, and you'd be working with 1 or 2 children per day, working on language facilitation strategies, dramatic play, reading out loud, and helping the teacher with different activities throughout the morning. That day is usually about 4 hours unless there's an early dismissal. And so for this lab, we want to also expect about 4 hours of work per week. So be prepared for that. It might take a little bit less, might take a little bit more, but that's kind of what we are approximating. So what are you going to be doing per week? Well, you're going to be watching a video similar to this one, which we have approximated about an hour per week. And then you'll be meeting with your small group led by one of our coaches who are all second-year master's students for about an hour per week. Your assignments should be sent to you soon if they are not already. And then you'll be given a weekly assignment and an article to read each week, which we also have approximated about 1 hour each. And we'll go into what these assignments are going to be further in this video. So for your small group meetings, you're going to want to watch the instructional video before because we're going to be giving you the basis of that topic, all of the information you might need to know. I should be leading most of them. Some weeks maybe a coach will film a video for it. So if you have any questions, you can ask it in the small group, or if you have a question that you need to ask separately from your coach for whatever reason, you can always ask me. My email will be listed at the end of every single PowerPoint, so if you ever need to reach me for any reason, just let me know. At the small group meeting, make sure you come with questions, like I said, and be able to come up with some examples. So you guys might be brainstorming different ways to use the strategy, different settings, different ways depending on age. Just depends on what the topic is that week and what your small group is kind of going with. And then you can either do your assessment before or after your small group meeting. So if you're confused after watching the video and want more information, you can do it after. If you feel really solid after watching the video and just want to get it done over the weekend or earlier in the week, you can do it before. But we will ask that all assignments will be due before midnight every Friday, just so that the coaches have a set time of when to expect assignments to be in by, and so that they can look over it and send it along to me as needed. For the assignments, you are going to be primarily doing 3 things for the majority of the semester. So you're going to be filming a couple videos, writing a couple scripts, and finding crafts, and then at the end of the semester, you'll be doing some projects. So for the videos, they're going to be very short. We're wanting to keep them to about 1 minute, just because we're going to be using them in future training. And if we think realistically, if somebody gives you a video to watch for a training and there's 14 of them and they're all 5 minutes long, that's going to be really intimidating, and you might not want to watch all of them. So we want to make it something short, accessible, but also informational, so that future students know what to expect and how to use these strategies when they're in preschool project. When you're recording the videos, we want you to record it horizontally so that it's all consistent. We all know the struggle of when you're watching a video and then all of a sudden it switches to vertical because somebody was holding their phone vertically. And then I've listed specific instructions in a document on Canvas under, I think it's called video instructions. So if you have any questions about what exactly you should be doing for those, always you can refer to that document. And then for the videos, it can either be in English or Spanish, or both. If bilingual speakers want to get some extra hours, they can film multiple videos in both languages and send those along to their coaches. For the scripts, again, we want them to be very short, 1 page max. Example conversation that you would have with a kid. I've listed an example in the script instructions document. So if you want to refer to an example there, you can. But basically what we want it to say is, you know, the language facilitator is going to say, "Hi, child, what do you have there?" And then the child will respond, "Ball." And then the language facilitator will use one of the strategies to say, "Oh, you have a ball, a big ball. You have a big blue ball." And that, of course, will depend on which strategy we're talking about that week. And then one thing that's not listed on this slide is crafts, which there is an instructional document on Canvas for that. So if you're not doing a video or a script for the first 2/3 of the semester, you are going to be finding a craft, and your group will have a certain topic each week, and you can find a craft on Pinterest or Teachers Pay Teachers, or even just on a Google image search, because we want to find a bunch of crafts that we can use to send home for the children weekly, so that they're able to use the strategies of that week and use that language in a different setting at home. Right now we send home a weekly newsletter and a coloring page with the child so that the parents can do that at home. But we think that if we give them an easy craft, it'll just introduce even more language and be something different and more stimulating every week. So we want to kind of make a database for that. And then, as I've mentioned, the last 1/3 to 1/4 of the semester is going to be a couple of projects, which are going to be case studies. So I'm going to provide you with a list of about 5 case studies, and you're going to have to, for 1 week, write a goal for each of them. The next week, describe an example of how you're going to take data for each of those. And then the next week, explain how you're going to solve a behavioral problem. And all of that information that you're going to get, we will give to you in these videos and your small group, so don't worry about that quite yet. So you might be wondering, especially the returners, how does this fit in with the Rosa Parks preschool project? It seems a little random that we're just talking about these strategies and doing these assignments, but we're not actually working with the kids this semester, so that might feel a little confusing. And the answer is that in previous semesters, we haven't had enough time to give a really in-depth training for you guys. If you've done preschool project before, you know that you'll have 1 or 2 meetings at the beginning of the semester. The first going over what preschool project is, dramatic play, language facilitation strategy, reading strategies, all in a really short time period, like 2 or 3 hours. And while coaches and language facilitators will get that information, it might be really hard to remember that and understand how to implement that in the preschool, and it can be really overwhelming. And then the second one goes over goals and data, again, pretty quickly in an hour or two. And so while you get introduced to that topic, it might not be as in-depth as you would like or prefer, and you might leave with some questions. So because we have this extra time, want to be able to go more in-depth on all of these topics to make you guys more comfortable for when we do go back in person to Rosa Parks. And then with all the training videos and scripts and crafts, we want to be able to use those materials for future trainings so that we can send those along to the labbers and they can review that on their own time before they start the semester and feel more comfortable when they go into preschool project and know exactly how to facilitate language and do dramatic play and read to the kids and feel confident and comfortable with all of this information. So an overview of the topics that we're going to be doing this semester, I've hinted at briefly. So the first 7 weeks are going to be going over the language facilitation strategies. And this is kind of how you're going to get the kiddos talking, right? So we're going to talk about how you can do it in groups, one-on-one, all of the different strategies. There should be about 2 per week. And we're going to teach you how to use the strategies in different contexts, different examples. And then the next 3 weeks, it's going to be reading strategies. So the first week, we're going to be talking about how you're reading. So your volume, pitch, facial expressions, different ways to just engage the child and make it interesting and fun. And then the next week, we'll be talking about using picture supports, visual aids, and different kind of questions that you can use when you're reading to supplement the book to make it more language driven and also help keep engagement. And then we'll be talking about some different strategies such as paired reading, parallel reading, and how you might implement these specific strategies at Preschool Project. And then once we finish these 10 weeks, so majority of the semester, on all of these different strategies, we'll spend 1 week on goals, 1 week on data, and 2 weeks on behavior management to round out the semester. I've listed here all of the language facilitation strategies we're talking about. So like I said, we're going to be breaking these 13 down into 7 weeks. So each week you'll have 2, except for the 9th one, Build Up Breakdown, is getting its own week, just because, as you can tell from the name, Build Up and Breakdown, it has more to it than the rest of them, and I felt like it needed its own week. And then the reading strategies, as I hinted at earlier, volume, tone, facial expressions, gestures, something that in undergrad we learned as CAR questions. So a comprehension question, abstract, and relatable question, and how to sandwich those together to get the most language out of kids. And then how to maintain their interest and engagement, visual supports, and different types of reading. For behavior management strategies, we want to work on positive versus negative reinforcement, how to prevent problem behaviors before they happen, and what to do if you don't know what to do. And then how to manage behavior in big groups of kids, because especially in the preschool setting, that can seem a little bit intimidating. Some of these classrooms have, you know, several kids, and especially the kiddos who have low language, that can cause behavior problems because they can't use their language to ask what they want or tell the teacher or you that there's a problem or engage with their peers. So it can cause some behavioral problems, and we want to teach you how to mediate those. For goals, we're going to be talking about, first of all, how do you even read a goal? Then how do you write a goal, all the different parts and components of a goal, and then once you understand that, we'll talk about how to implement the goal, especially in the preschool project setting, but we will also talk briefly about what to expect if you are planning on becoming a SLPA or going to grad school for speech-language pathology and pursuing that in your future, how you would go about goals in the clinical setting. And then for data, we're going to be talking about observational versus quantitative data. Observational is also like qualitative data, just something you see. And we've talked in previous semesters about how that's going to be the first couple weeks of preschool projects, is just taking observational data so that the coaches can make a goal. And then once the goal is set, Then we work on the quantitative data and we'll go more into depth on the data week about that information. All the different ways you could take data, how to make sure it's going along with your goal, and knowing when your goal is met and what do you do when your goal is met. So hopefully that gives you a overview of what to expect this semester. And if you do have any questions about what to expect, who your coaches are, what day you're going to be doing everything, read the syllabus first of all, or the project guidelines document. That's going to give you so much information. And then if you have any questions after reading that, email me. I'm always available. I would prefer you use the preschool project email just so that I don't mix up preschool project with my personal school email. This email is child3preschoolproject@gmail.com. And that is it for this video. The last thing we'll talk about is the assignments that you need to be doing this week, which are going to be due midnight on Friday, the 29th maybe, and yes, 28th, there we go, I wrote it for myself. So videos, scripts, crafts, none this week. This was just an introduction video. We didn't talk about any strategies, so we're not expecting you to do anything for that. But for everybody, there is a pre-class survey that I would like you to do, just so that we understand your understanding, and then we'll have you do a post-lab survey at the end of the semester so that we can see how you've grown, how helpful this has been, and what we need to tweak if we do this in future semesters. Read a language facilitation strategies overview. It's a really short one-page document that just gives you a brief description of all of the strategies. And then there's 2 articles on gestures, which is going to be our topic next week. And then if we do get small groups out this week, I would like you to meet with your small groups just to introduce ourselves. But because things are kind of crazy and we're still trying to shake out things a little bit, you might not get your small groups until next week. So I'll keep you guys updated with an email on that. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here for you guys. And I'm so excited to be sharing this semester with you. I hope that you guys are going to learn a lot. I think it's going to be really beneficial for both the coaches and the language facilitators. So I am so excited, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Oh, just kidding. Now we can stop.